Welcome, this is Jaideep Manocha, Associate Professor, Department of Information Technology, Arya College of Engineering and Information Technology, Jaipur. This video is for final year IT students. Subject is software testing and validation. In this video, we are going to cover some generic requirements of software test automation. After that, we will be looking at a process model. After that, we will check some tools for selection, criteria for selection, and at last we will consider the challenges that are coming under software test automation. So students, let us start with some generic requirements. You can see on this slide that first requirement is no hard coding should be there. That means one of the important requirements for a test suite is to keep all variables separately in a file. By following this practice, the source for the test suite need not to be modified each and every time. So it is required to run the test cases for different values of the variable. So this will enable a tester who does not know the program to change the values and run the test suite. So we will say that requirement number 1 says that no hard coding is the good thing. Now the next requirement says that test cases should be like that they can be expanded. That means we can add a test case, or adding a test case should not result in retesting the complete test suite. This is the better thing. Next requirement is regarding the reuse. That means the test suite should only do what a test is expected to do, and the test framework needs to take care of how it is done, and after that it should be available for reuse. That means the test program need to be modular to encourage reuse of the code. And now when we talk about the automatic setup and cleanup method, then we will say that a setup for one test case may work negatively for another test case. So it is important not only to create the setup but also to make undo function in the setup so that cleanup is possible. So it is again a general requirement, general purpose requirement. So we are just considering here the generic requirements. You can have some special requirement also. So the next is related to independent of test cases. The test cases need not to be independent, not only in the design phase but also in the execution phase. Okay, so this is this thing we have to take care. The next requirement is test case dependency. You can see in the next slide. One more is that insulation is there. So what do you mean by insulation here? That is insulating test cases during execution. Because when you will insulate from the environment, then it is an important requirement for the framework or test tool, because at the time of test case execution there could be some events or interrupts or signals in the system that may affect the others. Okay, so it should not be there. Next requirement is related to standards. That means coding standards and proper directory structures for a test suite may help the new engineers in understanding the test suite very fastly and help in maintaining the test suite. You can see the next requirement is selective execution and random execution and parallel execution. So what is this? Selective execution, when we talk about, a framework may have multiple test suites. So a test suite may have multiple test programs, a test program may have multiple test cases. That means one test suite and many programs, and for one program there are many cases. So the test tool or a framework should have a facility for the test engineers to select a particular one. Okay, so they can easily extract the test case or test program or test from the test suite by giving its proper name or by giving any other identity. When we talk about random execution, that means we must be able to execute the test cases randomly also, and as well as we can have the things where we are requiring some test cases to be executed parallelly. So this requirement is also an important requirement, so that we can make the functionality of the system enhanced, because now we have three things. We can select test cases by selective one, by selecting a one, or we can select some random test cases, and we can also execute them in parallel. So this is again a general purpose kind of requirement. So we want to say that these simple things should be available in our framework. The next one is related to looping, and further next is grouping. So what is looping? That means reliability testing basically requires the test cases to be executed in a loop. So basically in automation we have two types of loop. One is iteration loops, and second one is timed loop. So we want the both things. Whenever we require iterations we can do, and whenever we want to stop something or start something, that is a time loop, we can do. This is again a requirement. Grouping of test cases mean we have seen many requirements as scenarios for text execution till now, but how we can combine the individual scenarios into a group. That means if you want to combine many features, many scenarios, you know the meaning of the term scenario, then the system must be able to do that. Okay, so this is again a requirement. Next requirement is our system, our test cases, and our framework should be able to use the previous results, and we should have a facility where we can execute from the remote locations. That means most product testing requires more than one machines to be used, but if machines are apart from each other at a very good distance, then we will be using the remote function. That is, hence there is a facility needed to start the testing on multiple machines at the same time from a central place. The central machine should be able to operate remotely. So this is again a general purpose requirement. So you can see that all these requirements, if combined, then gives a good framework to us for software test automation. Next, archiving should be there, and we should have some proper scheme of reporting, and where independency of language is required, it must be there. So these are the main requirements we have discussed here, and we can add some more requirements. We can also have some special requirements. These all are some general purpose requirements. Let us now discuss about the process model of automation. Basically, there is no hard and fast rule on when automation should start and when should stop. Basically, one specific requirement for automation is that the delivery of the automated test should be done before the test execution phase, so that the deliverables from automation effort can be utilized for the current release of the product. So, keeping this thing in the mind, we can have a process model here. You can see in this diagram, here are W model where some phases of automations are involved, can be seen here. Okay, so you can see requirements, planning, design, and coding of product is there, and as well as at our right side automation phases are there. First we will decide what to automate, then we will generate a plan, then we will go for the design of automation, after that we will code. It is as same as the software development project, and at last we will go for these test shoots. So obviously it is also having a proper process, because test shoots from one of the deliverables from automation. So we should use a proper and genuine model for the same. So you can go in the depth of this model for further study. You can refer Srinivasan and Ramesh for the same, which is our reference book. Now the question is that how you will select a test tool. How you will select a test tool. So basically selecting the test tool is an important aspect of test automation for many reasons, like free tool are not well supported and they will get phased out. And if we are developing an in-house tool, that it takes time. Okay, one is that if it is free, then it is not well supported, but if we are going to develop our own, then it can take time. So we can also go for vendors and other businessmen, those are providing these tools, and we also require some strong training for this. So a lot of factors are there, those we have to consider while we are going to select a test tool. Then we can use some criteria for these selection tools. You can see these criteria here: meeting requirements, technology expectations, training skills, and management aspects. When we talk about the first one, there are plenty of tools available in the market, but rarely do they meet all the requirements of a given product or given organization. Secondly, we can say that test tools are usually one generation behind and may not provide backward or forward compatibility. This is very, very important factor. Third, we can say that the tools may not go through the same amount of evolution for new requirements. And at last, we can say that a number of test tools cannot differentiate between a product failure and a test failure. So this is the thing that we will see where the things are meeting exactly. Next, we talk about the technology expectation. That is, first, test tools are generally not allowed to test developers to extend or modify the functionality of the framework. Yes, basically a test tool is having a fixed functionality and developers are not able to extend it or modify it. Second, we can consider that a good number of test tools require some libraries to be linked. That means there are a lot of requirements also with the technology, because test tools are not 100% cross platform. They are just supported only on some OS platforms, and the scripts generated from these tool may not be compatible on other platforms. So this is again a thing which is considered when we are going to select a test tool. Again, the question of training skills is there, that what amount of training is required, and as well as management aspects. The last one is there, because a test tool increases the system requirement and requires the hardware and software to be upgraded. So this increases the cost, and obviously when there is a question of cost, management face is in front of the team. Okay, so this is again one more criteria. So we have to go through all the criterias, and after that we will select a test tool. So there are issues. These criterias are basically issues, and we have summarized all these criterias in this table you can see here. So now when we talk about that, what will be the steps? We have seen the criterias. Now what will be the steps for selection and deployment? Okay, then we can consider the steps as follows. You can see on this slide, the first is identify your test suite requirements among the general purpose requirements and add some other requirements if you have. Make sure your experiences are taken care of. Collect all the experiences from different people and use the similar test tools. Those are just having some matching with your requirements and experience. Keep a checklist for the same. You can identify list of tools and then you can select. You can evaluate and shortlist one set of tools, and then you can train people for the same. Deploy the tools across test teams after training all potential users of the tool. So this is about the selection and deployment. So students, in this lecture we have learned about the generic requirements, process model, and steps for selecting a tool, criteria for selecting a tool, and at the end, how to deploy the tool into the software test automation process. In our next lecture, we are going to consider some important things regarding matrices and the measures. But before that, we should know that we have done a lot of things about software test automation. But what are the challenges before these measurements and matrices? You can see on this slide that what are the challenges. So students, we would like to summarize that a software test automation plan should not be viewed as a pain, that it is very painful. No, it should not be like this. You should take it as a process, as a operation. You should not expect lot of quick things that you will get quick results, because basically test automation is going to pay you in the later phases. It will pay in a long run. You can see the fourth point here. So this is a challenge, that to practice software test automation or not, or either go for the manual things. So it is not a short-term goal, and high cost is there. So management issues are there and more efforts are required. So these are the basic challenges. So dear students, in the next lecture we are going to take the matrices of software test automation. Till then, thank you.